Man, movie nights are the best, right? You get some popcorn, maybe some candy, and you just chill. Are you sure about this one, babe? It looks scarier than facing Brock Lesnar after you stole his last cookie. This is serious stuff.
Well, that's what Naomi and Jimmy USO were trying to do. They were all set up on their big comfy couch, ready for a fun night. Jimmy was holding the DVD case, looking a little unsure. Naomi just laughed and grabbed a handful of popcorn, totally unfazed by the creepy girl on the cover.
Oh, relax. It's just a movie. We see crazier stuff in the ring every week. This will be fun, I promise.
Jimmy sighed dramatically, putting the disc into the player. He was trying to be brave, you know? He's a WWE superstar. But horror movies? That's a whole different kind of battle. The movie started, and it was super creepy. Dark hallways, weird noises, all the classic stuff. Jimmy kept jumping at every little sound, which made Naomi giggle.
You're such a scaredy cat. I thought you were main event Jimmy Uso.
He just mumbled something about it being atmospheric and tried to hide behind a pillow, which is just hilarious to picture. You know, this big, tough wrestler scared of a little movie. And then it happened. The part of the movie where the scary girl with the long black hair crawls out of the TV. It's a classic scare. But then, things got a little too real. The TV in their living room started to flicker and make a weird buzzing sound. Naomi and Jimmy both stopped laughing and stared at the screen. The girl from the movie, she was actually crawling out of their TV. It was insane. Her long dark hair was dripping water all over their nice clean floor. It was like a 3D movie, but way, way too realistic. They both screamed, and it wasn't a fun movie scream. It was there's a monster in our living room scream. Total panic mode.
Turn it off. Turn it off.
He yelled, but nothing was working. The TV was totally stuck on this one terrifying channel. The girl stood up, tilting her head in that super creepy way, and started walking toward them. Naomi, ever the quick thinker, grabbed a lamp.
Get back in the TV.
She shouted, holding the lamp like a weapon. It was pure chaos. They were tripping over furniture, yelling and trying to figure out how to send this uninvited guest back to her digital home. This was definitely not the relaxing movie night they had planned. Meanwhile, across town, a different kind of drama was unfolding. Think of it like a buddy cop movie, but with more muscles and better hair. We had our detectives on the case, Roman Reigns and the legendary Lita. They were at a crime scene, which looked suspiciously like a living room that had a very bad encounter with a ghost. Popcorn was everywhere, pillows were torn, and there was a strange, spooky-looking videotape on the floor.
Lita, what do you make of this?
He asked, pointing at the tape with a very dramatic finger. He was totally in his tribal chief detective mode. Lita knelt down, examining the evidence like a total pro. She wasn't scared at all. She's Lita. She's jumped off more ladders than most people have climbed. She picked up the tape carefully.
Well, Roman, it looks like our culprit left behind their calling card, a haunted VHS tape, very retro, and they were clearly not a fan of extra butter.
Roman nodded, stroking his chin thoughtfully.
A monster with a distaste for movie snacks. This is getting personal.
They were so serious about it, it was hilarious. They were treating a messy living room like the biggest mystery of the century. They took the tape back to their makeshift headquarters, which was basically just a room with a TV and a VCR they probably found at a garage sale.
All right, let's see what this monster is all about.
Roman said, ready to face whatever was on that tape. Lita popped it in, and the screen flickered to life. It was just static at first, and then a weird image of a well. You know the one.
Okay, this is classic horror stuff. A cursed tape. Legend says whoever watches it gets a spooky phone call and then, you know.
Let them call. They'll have to acknowledge their tribal chief first.
The tape finished, and they waited. Nothing happened. No phone call, no ghost, just silence.
Well, that was a bust.
Lita said, looking a little disappointed. Roman shrugged.
Maybe the monster's phone plan ran out, or maybe this isn't the whole story. The real clue isn't on the tape. It's the popcorn. No one just leaves good popcorn behind.
He was so committed to his popcorn theory. Lita just rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. This was turning out to be the weirdest case of their lives, and it was only just beginning. All right, let's check in with Nikki Bella. She was having a totally normal day, just hanging out with her adorable son, Matteo. They were in the kitchen, and the smell of pizza was in the air. Nikki was a little distracted, probably thinking about her next big business move or something. Mateo, being a little kid, was getting hungry.
Mom, is the pizza ready yet?
Nikki opened the oven door and peered inside.
Almost, sweetie. It looks good, but it's not ready. It needs to get a little more. Bella.
She totally laughed at her own joke. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The back door, which was definitely closed a second ago, creaked open. Nikki stood up straight, sensing something was off. And then, he appeared. It was Ghostface. Yes, the guy from the movies with the creepy mask and the long black robe. He was just standing there in the doorway, holding that famous knife. Nikki's heart probably did a backflip, but instead of screaming or running, she just put her hands on her hips.
Excuse me, can I help you?
She asked, like he was a delivery guy who got the wrong address. Only Nikki Bella could face down a horror icon with that much sass. But then, Ghostface did something nobody expected. He didn't attack. He didn't even say anything spooky. He just started dancing. And not just any dance. He was doing a perfect Fortnite dance. The floss, the orange justice, all of them. It was the most ridiculous thing you could ever imagine. A terrifying slasher villain known for his jump scares was now busting a move in the middle of her kitchen. Mateo's eyes went wide and he started giggling.
Mom, he's doing the dance from my game.
He shouted, completely unafraid. Nikki just stared, her mouth wide open in total confusion. This was not in the horror movie handbook. Nikki, ever the performer, slowly started to get into it. What else are you supposed to do when a masked killer starts a dance-off in your kitchen? She started doing a little dance of her own, a bit of the yes mode shuffle. It turned into this bizarre impromptu dance party. Ghostface was surprisingly good, very agile for someone in a giant robe. The pizza in the oven was probably burning, but who cared? They were in the middle of a dance battle with a horror legend. This whole monster invasion was turning out to be a lot weirder and a lot funnier than anyone could have predicted. Back at detective headquarters, Roman and Lita were trying to make sense of everything. They had reports coming in from all over. It wasn't just the TV girl or the dancing ghost face. There were other strange happenings. They had a big whiteboard set up, with pictures of the monsters and yarn connecting them all, just like in a real detective show. It looked very official.
Okay, let's review. We have a waterlogged girl who hates remotes, and a slasher who prefers Fortnite dances to actual slashing. What's the connection?
He was trying so hard to find a pattern in all the madness. Lita was looking at a new piece of evidence, a single, long metal claw. It looked like it had been left behind at another scene.
And now we have this. Looks like we can add Freddy Krueger to our guest list. This is getting to be a real monster mash.
Roman stopped pacing and looked at the claw. He squinted, deep in thought.
A claw. You know who else has claws?
Wolverine?
No, bears. Maybe we're not dealing with monsters. Maybe it's just a bunch of angry bare-naked bears.
Lita just stared at him for a second and then burst out laughing.
Bare-naked bears? Roman, are you serious? That's your big theory? That a group of Canadian bears is running around doing Fortnite dances and leaving behind horror movie props?
You have to think outside the box, Lita. The clues are all there. The claw, the surprising dance moves. It all points to musically inclined bears.
He was totally kidding, of course, but he was keeping a straight face, which made it even funnier. Their investigation was a mix of real detective work and the most hilarious, random jokes. Even though they were joking around, they were also getting closer to the truth. They realized all the monsters were acting weird. They weren't being scary in the usual way. It was more like they were confused or maybe even performing.
It's like they're all putting on a show, but they've forgotten their lines.
Lita mused, tapping the Freddy claw against the whiteboard. Roman nodded, his bear theory forgotten for a moment.
A show, or maybe they're trying to tell us something. What do all these characters have in common? They're all famous. They're all icons.
The pieces were slowly starting to come together, even if they were wrapped in layers of silly jokes. Let's head over to Umaga's house. The Samoan bulldozer was finally home after a long week, and all he wanted to do was relax. His favorite show was on TV. It wasn't some intense action movie or a wrestling match. Nope. It was a kids' show called R-Truth and Friends, a wholesome program starring his buddy, R-Truth. Umaga was sitting on his couch with a big bowl of snacks, just smiling as he watched R-Truth sing a song about sharing. It was a really sweet, peaceful scene. I mean, a giant, intimidating wrestler just enjoying a cute, happy television show. It just goes to show you can't judge a book by its cover. Suddenly, his closet door creaked open. Umaga paused with a chip halfway to his mouth. He looked over, a little annoyed that his quiet time was being interrupted. Slowly, a figure wrapped in old, dusty bandages stumbled out. It was a mummy. The mummy shambled into the room, groaning and reaching out its hands. Umaga just looked at it, then back at the TV where R-Truth was now teaching the alphabet, then back at the mummy. He wasn't scared. He just looked confused. He pointed his thumb at the mummy and said his one signature word, Samoa? It was like he was asking, "Dude, what are you doing here?" The mummy didn't seem to understand. It kept shuffling closer, groaning its mummy groans. Umaga, with a heavy sigh, got up from his couch. He walked over, gently took the mummy by the shoulders, turned it around, and walked it right back into the closet, closing the door behind it. He just wanted to watch his show. He sat back down, picked up his snack bowl, and tried to get back into the episode. It was just another weird interruption in a day full of them. But the night wasn't over for him. The universe, it seemed, was determined to ruin his relaxation time with horror movie tropes. Later that night, Umaga was fast asleep in his bed. He was probably dreaming of winning championships, or maybe about what R-Truth's friends would do in the next episode. But then the dream took a dark turn. He found himself in a spooky boiler room, and a man with a burned face, a striped sweater, and that famous clawed glove appeared. It was Freddy Krueger. Freddy cackled, "Welcome to my world!" But before he could do anything scary, Umaga, still half asleep, just rolled over. In his sleep, he mumbled, 5 more minutes, and pulled the covers over his head. Freddy was just left standing there, completely stunned. He had never been snoozed before. The next morning, the action moved to the local police station. But it wasn't all serious business. In the break room, a heated battle was underway. Not against monsters, but over a game of Uno. Triple H, Roman Reigns, and the Big Boss Man were sitting around a table, cards in hand, and things were getting intense.
Draw 4, Hunter.
Bossman shouted, slamming the card down on the table with a triumphant grin. Triple H looked at the card, then at Bossman, his face a mask of pure betrayal.
You wouldn't dare.
It was like a WrestleMania press conference, but with colorful cards. Roman just leaned back in his chair, laughing,
Looks like the game is about to lose the game.
which earned him a glare from Triple H.
Stay out of this, Roman. This is between me and the long arm of the law.
Hunter shot back. They were taking this card game so seriously, it was amazing. Just as Triple H was about to draw his 4 cards, Lita walked in, holding a stack of files.
All right, boys, break it up. We have more important things to worry about than who has to draw 4. The monster reports are getting crazier.
Bossman sighed, putting his cards down.
What is it now? Did Jason Voorhees get a parking ticket?
Lita opened a file.
Worse, we got a report from Umaga's place. He said a mummy came out of his closet, so he put it back in. Then he had a dream about a guy in a striped sweater, but he was too tired to deal with it.
Triple H raised an eyebrow.
So the monsters are real, but they're also really bad at their jobs?
It was the weirdest crime wave the city had ever seen. Monsters were popping up everywhere, but they were all acting so bizarrely and ineffectively. Roman picked up the Freddy Krueger file.
So the bare-naked bears theory is out.
He asked with a smirk. Lita ignored him.
The point is, this is escalating. First a few isolated incidents, now they're making house calls. We have to figure out what they want and how to stop them before someone actually gets scared.
The Big Boss Man stood up, looking serious for the first time since the Uno game started.
All right, team, we need a plan. A real plan. We need to figure out how to round up all these ghouls and ghosts for good.
The card game was over. It was time to get serious about fighting monsters. With the Uno game officially postponed, the team got down to business. They were all gathered around the whiteboard again, which was now covered in even more crazy notes and drawings.
Okay, so they're not here to scare us, they're not here to dance, and they're terrible at their job. So what do they want?
Lita, who had been deep in thought, suddenly snapped her fingers.
Maybe they don't what they want. Think about it. They're all from different stories, different worlds. Maybe they're just lost and confused, and they're just doing what they think they're supposed to do.
Triple H nodded slowly.
Like they're actors who've forgotten their motivation. They're just going through the motions.
He looked around at the team.
So, if we can't fight them in the traditional sense, how do we stop them? We can't just put them all in handcuffs. Most of them are ghosts or dream demons.
This was the big question. How do you arrest a monster? You can't just read a mummy its Miranda rights. They needed a plan that was as unconventional as their opponents. They needed something that would get all the monsters in one place at the same time. That's when Roman had his brilliant idea.
What do you do when you want to get a big crowd together? You throw a party, a monster mash.
Everyone looked at him. It sounded crazy, but it was just crazy enough to work.
We lure them all to one location with something they can't resist.
Lita caught on immediately.
Music. We saw it with Ghostface. He couldn't resist dancing. Maybe that's the key to controlling all of them.
The idea was born. They would create a song so catchy, so irresistible, that every monster in the city would be drawn to it. The final piece of the puzzle was who could create such a legendary track. They needed someone with style, someone with flow, someone who could make a beat that even a zombie would want to dance to.
I know a guy. He's the best in the business. A rapper so cool he could make a song about taxes sound like a hit.
He made the call, and just like that, the plan was in motion. They were going to commission the ultimate monster-luring song. It was time to fight horror with hip-hop. The stage was being set for the most epic and most ridiculous showdown ever. The night of the big plan arrived. They had set up huge speakers in the middle of the city square, right next to the police station. The special song, a masterpiece of monster-attracting rhythm, was ready to go. The rapper had delivered a track so infectious, even Big Boss Man was tapping his foot to it.
All right, team, is everyone in position? Let's get this party started.
Lita gave the signal, and the music blasted through the speakers. The beat dropped, and the whole square vibrated with energy. Now all they could do was wait and see if their crazy plan would actually work. And wow, it did. It worked better than they could have imagined. First, the girl from the TV crawled out of a nearby electronics store display, her creepy walk slowly turning into a jerky dance. Then Ghostface appeared, not with a knife, but with some fresh new dance moves. Freddy Krueger, the mummy, they all started showing up, drawn by the irresistible beat. They weren't scary anymore. They were just a confused mob of monsters, unable to stop themselves from dancing. They were doing the robot, the worm, everything. It was the weirdest, most incredible block party in history, a true monster mash. With all the monsters distracted and dancing in the square, Roman and the Big Boss Man moved in. They weren't aggressive. They were more like party hosts guiding everyone to the VIP section.
All right, folks, the party's moving to a new location.
Bossman announced through a megaphone. They gently herded the dancing ghouls into a large waiting paddy wagon, which was decorated with streamers. It was the most cheerful mass arrest ever. Roman even high-fived a zombie on its way in.
Great moves out there tonight.
The monsters didn't seem to mind. They were still grooving to the music playing from a small speaker inside the truck. With all the monsters safely contained and dancing away, the team finally breathed a sigh of relief. The city was safe.
Nice work. I guess you do more than just lose at Uno.
Triple H walked over, patting Roman on the back.
You know, I'm starving. All this monster hunting has made me hungry.
I know a place. And I'm buying. I figure I saved so much money by not having to pay for all that property damage from a real monster attack.
And so our heroes, their job done, all went out to a restaurant to celebrate their victory with a well-deserved meal.